Spring clean that podcast feed and skip the doom scroll. The Newsworthy gets you caught up on the day's news in less than 15 minutes and gives you some fun conversation starters along the way. It's quick, friendly, and informative. Search The Newsworthy wherever you're listening now and follow or subscribe to The Newsworthy today.
Welcome to the Awakening Women Show. I'm your host, Leanne Oten, a former counselor with a background in counseling psychology. I'm a mentor for high-achieving, ambitious women with over 13 years in the mental health and empowerment space. I've guided hundreds of women and have influenced over 100,000 through my platforms, podcast, and other courses, programs, and mentorship. I'm also the creator of the Relationship Clarity program, formerly known as End the Cycle, which you will hear me mention a lot of times as we go through the episodes. This program is to help women break free from destructive relationship cycles and come to clarity and power about their next step. This show is for the woman who knows her relationship struggles go deeper than the usual conflict. You know there's something more going on, but you can't quite nail it down or pinpoint what that is. You'll find clarity here, empowerment, truth, and validation. Clarity on whether your relationship can be healed or whether it's time to reclaim your life and move forward. What started as me sharing my own experiences quickly became a movement because the truth is, so many ambitious, successful women are stuck in confusing and draining relationship dynamics while trying to rise in every other area of their life, career, motherhood. This is you, you're not alone, and you don't have to keep living this way. Inside this podcast, you'll hear some of my most downloaded episodes, plus fresh content designed to help you break patterns, reclaim your wholeness, and decide once and for all if this relationship is where you belong. I'm so glad you found this space. Let's dive in. Welcome to this edition of the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oten, and in this episode, I'm sharing something a little more vulnerable, a little more about my own journey, because one thing that I have always stayed really aware of since opening my first counseling practice and seeing my very first client in my new office is that I wanted to lead people only from that which I personally could lead them through because I had already been there. And so how I did this was I was very clear on my scope of practice, and if I felt like someone had issues that I really couldn't support them with in the best way, then I would let them know, either by saying, this isn't really something that I can help you with, but here is a referral to someone that could, or here's where I can help you with this in this aspect of your life, and it will probably improve it over here. And so I still do this to this day. Like, I don't teach anything that I have not yet gone through or something that I'm not working on myself. So all of the things you read from me online or you read from me on Instagram or even on this podcast, aside from times where I'm answering a question that pertains to another person or I'm coaching, there's some form of that I myself have experienced, even though it may not be the exact circumstance. But what I see with women is that there is this common thread that runs through that we all have very similar tendencies when we end up in relationships where we lose ourselves. And we're not here to make it about a man or about labeling him a narcissist or an avoidant or this toxic thing or that, because let me tell you something. Something that I have learned is that we can all have the propensity to have toxic behavior. So behavior where we're avoidant, where we're running away, where we're scared, where we are emotionally shut down and unavailable. And this is something that I have recently been awakened to within myself, that I have more layers of work to do. And this is what I help women do in my mentorship spaces, is that they're becoming women who just live from a new space of consciousness, of consciously creating what it is they want next. It's not just about having clarity about should I stay or leave this relationship. That is just very limited in the scope of your entire life. People get divorced all the time and start fresh, right? It's not really about that. It's the woman you're becoming through understanding what are the patterns? What part do you play in them? What's your toxic part? What's your toxic traits? I've seen it with women. I've seen it with women I work with. I can see that they are in victim mentality and they're not necessarily operating from self-integrity, right? And we have to own that part only because We can't change it if we're not aware of it. And this is something I recently had to look at. I could have easily just chalked it up to, well, this is what I'm doing because you did this, and so this is why I'm behaving this way, instead of going, well, actually, the way that I have been reacting and responding is toxic. If I was experiencing that, I would not want to continue with a relationship with someone. And so I'm sharing this because the big overarching issue, the big theme, is that just because you leave a relationship behind doesn't mean you've left the pattern behind. Many women get this idea that they leave and their work is done and they just drop out of mentorship and they just go for it. And they'll probably end up dating and getting back into another situation because that is what they're wired for. And believe me, I had a few, I would say, really unsavory, not good experiences dating. And luckily, I had the wherewithal to know where the red flags were, and especially within my own body, like to understand, like when you get that ick and that repulsive feeling, instead of leaning in and going, oh, maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm being too sensitive, right? Because this is what women do. And I've worked with women who have been on their third marriages with a very unhealthy person, and women who have brought children into another unhealthy relationship only to have it fall apart again. I don't want that for any woman. And so the real bottom line here is, when you come in to the clarity inner circle, which is where women come when they're facing the ending of a relationship, but they're just wanting the clarity. They want to plan. They want to leave it clean. They want to leave it strategically so they don't blow their life up and end up with really severe repercussions of leaving from emotional reactivity, which is not recommended. If you're one of the women that, like the women that come in type A, very, check all the boxes, you want a strategy, you don't want to blow up your life without a plan, then you need to get inside of the inner circle. And right now, the pricing is going to be doubling. So right now you can join and lock in the pricing for the initial 6 months and then stay on as a monthly subscription as long as you want to remain in the coaching group, because this is where, when women leave, they have a space they can come to get quick answers to things around strategy, or, hey, this is happening, what should I do with this? Or when new layers come up emotionally from leaving, because they always will, you have a space to come to and get that quick touch point. But the work that women are doing in there is beyond just getting clarity to leave. It's they're realizing they need to change their whole career focus. They might even need to move away. And so some women think about all that and they just get overwhelmed and they shut down and they're like, oh, forget it. Like, that all seems so overwhelming. But you don't need to think about all of that right away. You can just think about, okay, so who is it that I need to be to step into that woman? Because it's not about just deciding I'm going to leave and move on. It's who you're becoming in the process. And so there was a moment when I realized in my life where I had stuff I needed to work on within myself. And the biggest awakening, obviously, in this was realizing that my 19-year relationship at the time was not going to work. And there was a lot that had to go on behind the scenes around that. Like I say to every woman, it's not always just a quick decision. I mean, sometimes it is, but a lot of times there's some groundwork that needs to be done. And smart women don't act without a plan. Especially when you have a lot to lose. You have assets, you have kids, you have a business, you have high net worth. You don't want to just cut and run. You need a plan. You need a plan. You have to treat it as if it's a business plan. And the plan is also, all right, I'm still trying to decide if I'm better to stay or go. You need a plan for how to get that clarity so you don't keep spinning your wheels for another 5 years, 10 years, carrying on. The longest I've seen a woman stay in a really horrendous, awful marriage was 35 years. So wherever you are, you're here, you're listening to this, so you're already ahead of where women might be if they were not here and they did not land on this podcast. I have done countless episodes. If you were to scroll down, there's hundreds of episodes on clarity, and narcissistic abuse dynamics, when that was more what my focus was awareness and teaching women that. So I've already got pretty much every topic you could ever imagine already done. And those episodes got multiple thousands and thousands of downloads because of the nature of them. And so it just goes to show you how many women have struggled in these dynamics, which is really unfortunate. But my mission is not just to educate you and poke at the problem and say, oh, look, this is what you're experiencing, and then leaving you feeling helpless or like you've been victimized. I want to move you into empowerment and move you into agency over your life. And most women that come in to work with me, and this was me, I'm still working on this part of the feeling and the vulnerability. I have gone through my life with a really tough exterior, like nothing bothers me. I have to act like nothing bothers me. Being vulnerable, no way. Feeling indebted to someone, no, gross. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to feel indebted. If someone does something for me, it's very difficult for me to just receive. And these are things I'm working on now. And I'm getting mentorship around this because for business and personal, because it's an ongoing journey, and it does involve investment. It really does. If you really want to reach your goals and you want to live a life that really feels juicy and alive to you, and you have that value-driven mission for your life, something that matters to you, something of purpose, even if it's being the type of mom that you want your kids to experience, or it could be building a 6 or 7 figure business. It could be changing careers and doing something that really lights you up, or it could be a mix of those things. But there's got to be a future self that you're working toward, a future vision for your life, what it is that you want to experience. And this is what I have women do when they come in, is you start doing this kind of groundwork. It's not just like, oh, let's talk about him and let's shift it and let's see if you can fix him. No, I actually have women completely do a 180 focus on totally different topics that have really not much to do with him at all. And through that work, they get the clarity of this relationship is not, it's how it works is it's no longer a match for the woman you're becoming just naturally, because you're starting to get clarity. You're starting to see your part. You stop doing things that you've been doing before and the dynamic reveals itself. You start understanding boundaries and how to really embody them instead of just yap about them and talk about them and threaten. You actually are learning how to embody these boundaries, that it's more than words. It's less words. It's more about your energy. And I teach this in The Art of Feminine Self-Containment. And you're going to learn that when you come in and how that works. So you are containing your own energy and you're not just leaking it all over, giving it freely, people pleasing, trying to manage the room, manage everyone else's emotions, doing what you think everyone else wants you to do, worrying about everyone else's emotions before you even give a shit about what you're feeling and experiencing. And you start feeling what you really feel, and you start embracing the truth of what you feel, whatever that is. And you stop trying to make yourself more palatable for people, especially a man. You want a man that can handle all of you, right? And that doesn't mean that you are emotionally irresponsible. I don't mean that. But a man that can understand that a woman in her feminine is kind of messy. One day we might be feeling like we just want to stay in our pajamas all day in the couch and with no makeup and not leave the house. And then the next day we want to dress ourselves up and do our hair and put makeup on and put an actual outfit on. And we feel like we want to do more and be more outward. There's days when we just feel sad or like we're grieving and we're having a harder time. And then other days it feels lighter and we start to feel that spark again. That is normal. But what women do is shame themselves for having this flow of different experiences. We're not designed to be men. Men are quite simple and they are quite consistent with what they show you. Even if it's toxic, they're consistent, right? They're consistent with either being healthy and a man of integrity or unhealthy and a man with no integrity, but they're consistent. We are not. It depends on the day. And so I really feel passionate about teaching women to embrace whatever is coming in the moment. And so if you are in a situation, well, you likely are if you're listening, that you are on that edge of, is this relationship going to work or not? Or you're wondering, oh, maybe I'm just not communicating good enough, or maybe I just need to try a little bit harder. That is not the way. So if that's where you are, then that's where my inner circle helps you get that clarification. But what I want you to ask, instead of, can this relationship work? Should I stay? Should I go? I want you to throw out that question, because it's a useless question. If that was the only question that needed to happen, you would have known the answer by now. It probably would have been to go. That's not what's going on here. There's something much deeper going on that can shift very quickly when you get to that one piece that's kind of like I don't like to use the word stuck, but it's kind of clogged up. Like there's a kink in the cord, like if your headphones are in a knot or something and maybe they aren't playing clearly because there's a kink, and so you unkink it and suddenly it's clear. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes and oftentimes that's all it is. And what I hear from women when they come into my spaces, this is over the years, is an instantaneous, like, I'm at home feeling. And it's because they start to see and get the validation, number one, but they also get that comfort. Peter Levine, he's a trauma expert. He said that, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, that the result of trauma or having relational trauma or any type of trauma, an accident, abuse, that kind of thing, the extent to which that will impact a person's life in profound ways is determined by the type of immediate care they get in the moment. And that means like empathetic care, someone there that can help them to make sense of what has happened so they don't carry it with them and blame themselves. And I see women blaming themselves all the time in these relationships. That's all they ever do, is blame themselves and take all of the ownership and take all of the responsibility and blame for it not working out. So the question is not, can this relationship work? It's, what kind of woman do I need to become to build a life that no relationship or man could ever take away from me? This is the model that I teach inside of the inner circle. This is the question that I had to ask myself back in 2019. I realized I had to get mentorship. So very close together, I hired 2 multiple $1,000 mentorships where I was learning more about building an online business, and one was for my personal transformation. And within that year, I completely changed who I was being, the woman I was, and I built a wildly successful business very quickly that I wasn't actually expecting. And I just opened up to possibility and realized that I had work I had to do on myself to become that version of me. And so I rebuilt everything from the inside out that allowed me to not lose my standard of living. Sure, there were times that were really hard. I got really sick. I basically had to stop my business for a good year. Yes, there was repercussions of that, right? But I still was able to keep the standard of living and not have my daughters' lives really, truly affected by everything that went on. To me, that is success. You can accrue debt, pay off debt. You live how you have to live to make it through life, right? You do what you have to do to make it through life. That wasn't it. I wanted my daughters to see me actually be able to move through really difficult stuff, a really serious health condition that left me unable to even function for quite some time. And I wanted them to see what that looks like to not give up, even when there were moments when that's all it seemed that I needed to do. And the part that people often won't talk about, even women that you might know, is that, oh, I left and actually everything got way worse. Nobody's talking about that there's a crash that comes when you're telling yourself the truth and when you really do have to take that leap. But It's not so much about, oh, that it something went sideways. It's who did I become through that? What are the lessons? What's the wisdom and the grit? The grit is attained through working through things even when they feel really fucking difficult. When it seems like nothing is working your way, that everything, the ground underneath you is shifting and moving, and you're like, I don't know where to go from here. Why is all of this happening right now at once? That is how grit is formed. And all of that has changed me, yes. It's made me a better coach. It's made me be able to be even more direct with women that I'm working with, because that's the type of mentorship I like. I want someone to just tell me, where am I screwing myself up here? Like, show me where I'm messing up. I want to know that. I want to know where I'm going wrong so I can fix it. That's most high achieving women, right? We want, give me the plan, give me the checklist. Love it. But the thing is that leaving is just scratching the surface. That's not the healing, and that is not breaking the cycle. It's breaking a pattern, but the cycle can still continue. And this is why many women end up in 2, 3, 4, 5 different toxic relationships. And we have to understand that when that happens, we're the problem. And many women, you see them online, those ones that are like swearing off all men and they're just going to live alone with their cats for the rest of their lives because all men are toxic and all men are a risk. Well, they're not. You have to be able to get clarification on your value, what you will and will not tolerate. And of course, if you don't want to have a relationship ever again, that is fully your choice. But I think most women that I work with, even though they're terrified of that, it is what they want. They want a companion. They want someone to share life with and do life with and experience life with. But they don't want someone that's a liability that's going to add stress and chaos to their life. But they become too afraid to even put themselves out there anymore. So it's easier just to shut down and say, I don't need any man. And everyone gets to have that choice. But if you do want that at some point, then you have to heal yourself. You have to heal your heart. You have to bring down those protective walls that you had to build to make it through and start softening and exhaling and surrendering and loosening that death grip on life and needing control over everything, including men and what they're doing and not doing. You've got to drop the illusion of control because we really don't have control over anything. And so when women start to pull down that barrier and actually be able to feel what's present for them, that's when things start to move. If you think that leaving this relationship means everything will be fine, the next person will be different, that you're healed, the past is behind you, you are probably the most at risk for ending up in the same type of situation because we carry our unhealed patterns into that next relationship if we're not really aware of what those triggers are. So you could say, well, I was triggered in this area of this relationship, and I'm just going to say, well, it was because of something he did. And sure, that very well might be the case, but also there's very likely a core wound within you that you have not healed that he is mirroring. So this is what I teach women how to look at, and this is where they get these radical shifts because he's just a mirror for what you are not awake to within yourself. He is a mirror for your unconscious. That doesn't mean that his behavior is justified. No, you still get to decide and discern, do I want to be in a relationship with someone who treats me this way or is this way, but I still need to heal that core wound within myself so that I clear it away and I'm not going to end up with someone else mirroring that exact same thing to me. Or if I do, he's someone that is safe that I can actually heal that part with. So many women protect themselves with their independence and avoiding intimacy altogether. And a lot of times we just have more healing of our hearts to do. We tend to stick with that surface level intellect side. But in order to heal, we need to get into our body and actually feel the vulnerability, feel what it is that we feel. Because what we've learned in our lives is that it's not safe to do that. It's not safe to feel sad or to cry or to have feelings or emotions. When we protect our independence by avoiding intimacy and vulnerability, this doesn't lead to the life that we actually want. I think it does, but it doesn't. This is about looking at your future self. What is it that you want to experience in your future? And who is it that you're being now that's in alignment with what that is? If it's a loving relationship, what is it you want to experience in a relationship? If it's with your health, what do you want to experience with your health? If you are in a relationship with someone, again, what does that look like? What's your ideal scenario? How do you feel every day in your body? And getting really clear on what that is, most women haven't done that. And most women freeze up. Like, I have no idea. But the thing is, I think a lot of us too have that romantic fantasy of there's that perfect man that's going to make life perfect. And if he comes in, then all my problems will disappear. And that's unfortunately not how it works. And when we have that kind of romantic fantasy idea, then someone that has the first sign of a flaw, we run. You're not perfect and you're not meeting that fantasy that I have. So I do encourage women to not approach the idea of relationships with fantasy. And this is why when you come in, you do the needs work and clarity on what the true needs are, what your desires are, and what are your non-negotiables and what the difference is between all of those. Becoming a woman who, no matter what, is never going to abandon herself again. That you have agency, you have independence. You do work hard to rebuild your life. Yes, it's hard work to rebuild from a lifetime of this. There's a lot that goes on with that. And it's the rebuild that's actually the excitement, because you're like, I don't know what's coming. I have no idea what's coming. And you just trust what's in front of you. For me, I love investing in mentorship. I'm constantly investing in something. And I just joined something very recently that found her and was compelled. I like people that they're kind of messy like me. And you can kind of not quite pinpoint exactly what they do, but you can see that, well, obviously they're very successful and they have a lot of people and there's a movement they're creating. And I find that inspiring because I don't like the feeling of being boxed in. It's the reason why I had to move away from I was known as the woman that helped women leave narcissistic marriages. And while, yes, that's still what I am doing, that is not the only thing I want to be known for, because I do so much more than that. The work that I bring, because it's a extension of my own transformation and my own decades of work, it changes women on so many different levels very quickly. Like sometimes their entire life is unrecognizable within weeks of joining because of the shift that happens. And that's not because I have magical witchy powers. It's because I've been through so much in my life that women can feel that depth, that it's coming from like learned and earned wisdom, like in the trenches learning, that dark feminine power of discernment and understanding what it means to be feminine and also strong. Strong as in nothing's actually going to break me and keep me down because I just keep getting up and I keep rising anyways. So I want you to take this idea as we close this out, is the next 10 years of your life is being shaped by whether or not you decide to break this pattern now. So who it is that you want to be is being shaped in the now. It's always in the now. What you have now is a representation of your identity, of who it is that you're being, your result, money in the bank, success, health, body, relationship, sex, intimacy, whether you feel turned on or turned off in your life, whether you feel depressed or lit up in your life. That is all just a representation, all of your relationships in your life, a representation of who you are being. And when you do this work to get really, really clear on that future self vision of you, that future self woman, and you start acting in alignment with her, things shift really quickly. But remember, this isn't something that happens overnight. It's a rewiring. And it does require being in a different environment where other people are doing the same work and you have guidance that really like brainwashes you into the opposite way of being. You've been brainwashed into believing what it is you believe now, to believe that this is what you just have to have right now. You've been brainwashed into this through your past programming, through parenting, through past experiences, through this relationship, through men that you've been with. And my job when you come inside is to brainwash you out of that into your power, into your discernment, into boundaries, into seeing more elevated ways of living your life right now. It does not matter if you are in a health crisis, if you can't stand your spouse for another minute, but you don't know how you're supposed to just like leave right now, or you're right on that cusp and you feel alone. You don't have to do it on your own. And this is what we do inside. So I'm inviting you officially to come in. We're open for enrollment right now. And when you come in, you get dropped into a community, high-level community. It's not about chitter-chatter about men and what he's doing. It's not like that. This is a space where you come in when you want it, when you need it, when you have a question, when you want to touch in. You come into the broadcast channel in Telegram that has over 100 mini teachings from me that you are supposed to listen to on repeat. I want you in there listening to them on repeat while you're doing other things, because it literally is to reprogram this crappy way of thinking that has got you where you are now. We literally have to listen to things on repeat to change the subconscious patterning. That's how it works. And it has to be messages that are in alignment with what it is that you vibrate with. That's like, oh, that's what I want. Like, if you felt that listening to this, we have to go with the resonance. We have to go with what resonates, and you might not even know how it makes any sense. Who knows, right? Like dropping $5,000 on a mentorship from someone that you just met or just found out because of the resonance, or $3,000 or $2,000 or $1,000 or whatever. And you might not feel like it makes any logical sense. You're like, oh, what am I doing? And it feels almost like your fingers are doing the work without your brain involving itself, and you're just doing it and you're just detached from it because you're like, well, this is just the next right thing because this is where I feel pulled. This is how feminine women operate. We don't get in our heads. We feel into the next decision. This is what we do. But there's a problem, I will say, when we bring that part of us into relationships that are not serving us. So this is a whole other thing. And this is what we get into inside, is breaking those emotionally addictive patterns. Because when you are dealing with a relationship that is manipulating your emotions, this is where I have women moving more into their logic. So I just basically juxtaposed myself with this to say you need to feel your emotions and be more embodied and feeling and driven and led by your feelings, because something feels like the right thing to do because you feel like it. And then we don't do that with these relationships. So it's an art, and I will teach you how to do that inside. So I invite you to come in, and you will get weekly Q&A in the app. There's no live calls to attend. You drop in between clients, in between work meetings, when you're done your day, in between kid activities. I've designed it for the high-level successful women who's busy. For me, I don't join live group calls when I'm in programs like the one I'm in now. I will probably listen to them at another time, but I love being able to pop in and post questions. So women like us, we're very self-led. We don't usually have something that's like, oh, here's an urgent thing I need right now. We're able to really work through what's coming up, but we really do want to have that place that we can ask a question when it comes up and put it in. And that's what I've created inside. And so if you are ready for that next level and you want to be in a space that supports you into rising, then that's where you need to be. Bye for now.